The hardcore difficulty in TDS has been in the game for multiple years now, with it initially being a genuine challenge to complete, and over the years it's only gotten a lot easier thanks to multiple towers that were garbage being reworked. Because of hardcore getting easier over the years, a new subgenre to beating hardcore began to emanate from the mode, which was to beat the mode entirely on your own. While 2 back then was already an impressive achievement, soloing the mode completely on your own was a title only for the people dedicated enough to own it. And today I wanted to talk about the history of how this challenge has evolved and the many strats people have used to get to this point. Before the video starts, if you do enjoy, typical stuff, subscribe, like video, buy memberships so I can afford a package of Chips Ahoy cookies. They're $5 Canadian on Amazon. Quite fire. And join the Discord. It's kind of fire there as well. Anyway, let's get into the video. Just out of curiosity, I've had 3 people attack me at once. They didn't even come close to killing me. So, what makes you think a mere mortal by yourself can defeat me? Well, those other people prove that you can bleed. Which means you can die. The thought of soloing the hardest TDS mode didn't even exist until a year after its introduction into the game, and it would be in the most diabolical way imaginable. On December 13th, 2021, Solar Eclipse Night 4 would be released, which gave us the event tower, the Executioner, and everyone who played at the time, who were able to access YouTube, probably knew that the Executioner on release had the stupidest bug imaginable. The reason this bug existed in the first place is understood by knowing how the troop worked. While other towers had hit scan, which is basically whatever got in their range, they would start attacking them instantly, the Executioner worked as a projectile tower, meaning when an enemy got in his range, he would throw the projectile at them and that projectile would damage them. Somehow, if you decided to place an Executioner and sell him the moment the axe was in the middle of the path, the axe's hitbox would somehow just stay there, meaning whatever walked in that hitbox would get damaged. And you could stack this infinitely. And when people figured this out, no one was surprised when Eggrypted decided to solo the event and hardcore for the first time ever, supposedly. I don't know. I say possibly for another reason, because another well-known bug, being the military base glitch, which just slowed down enemies, might have been able to solo as well, but I literally cannot find a singular video about it. Either way, the Executioner glitch was either the first or second glimpse at what soloing hardcore might look like. But the Executioner glitch got patched and hardcore became possible solo again. Sad face. Surprisingly, it only took another 10 months before another way of soloing hardcore became possible. This method of soloing hardcore became reality in about 2 updates, I'd say. The first one being the Halloween update of 2022. Rather than getting a typical Halloween event, instead we were given a new FNAF game mode called Pizza Party, along with the cool Warden Tower and Foxy the Pirate. While those things were really cool, the first reason why hardcore became soloable again in this update was with the Fungi Island map remake. The thing with soloing hardcore is that enemies would inevitably make it past your defenses, so if you had a long map to compensate for that, you could theoretically move your towers at light speed where enemies began to leak and maybe beat the mode. Guess which map was remade to have a long-ass map and was available? The longer map also made it possible to extend the amount of time you have to kill the Void Reaver, and this was made a lot easier by a change that happened in April, which made only 1 Void Reaver spawn instead of 2. The other update was in the Violent Night update, which gave a big buff to Ranger. Ranger before this update became pretty mundane, with the fire rate bug was somewhat fixed, which made DPS towers completely outrun big damage dealers like Ranger, who was also the only good big damage dealer, coincidentally. To sum up his changelog in this update, it gave him reduced costs and a lot more damage for multiple levels. So with Ranger, along with Engineer, Accelerator, Commander, and Golden Cowboy for your economy/early game, you were able to do an incredible 10,600 damage per second, meaning it could kill something with 1.2 million HP in about 2 minutes. And the Void Reaver just walking while doing his summon move and his portal attack occasionally could make it to your base in 8.5 minutes on Fungi Island. While extremely theoretical, since Void Reaver would be stunning your shit so much you couldn't even breathe, it could be done. If you killed the enemies that came before the Void Reaver extremely fast, and then you had time to kill him, it was theoretical at best. Although, I don't know who in their right mind would commit to such a horrible challenge. Witherstar was a small TDS YouTuber notable for their content focused on challenges, the same type of content Souls is known for. Before Witherstar came around, people knew it was possible to get to wave 50 on Fungi Island, and given the fact that with the maximum amount of DPS possible to achieve in the game at that point, and the longest map being added to hardcore, it was theoretically possible. I'm saying theoretically a lot. Fuck. And my man Wither took that slight chance and fucking ran with it, bro. Except there is a slight error in what I said before. Remember how I said Ranger being buffed was an important part? Well, I lied, because he beat solo hardcore, but instead used DJ to help him. DJ. The DJ tower that buffs range, not DPS. Either way, Witherstar claimed the crown of the first ever victor of solo hardcore without any glitches. And once that video was released, people were amazed, and rightfully calling him the GOAT, because to see someone solo the Void Reaver and come out on top was literally unheard of. Then, adding in the Ranger buff I mentioned earlier would only make this challenge a fuck ton easier. Although it still wouldn't really open the floodgates just yet, even if the theoretical was proven to be true, this challenge was still super goddamn hard to do. It took all of your concentration, and to perform one slip up would set you back maximum an entire hour. So while possible, it was only achieved by the truly dedicated players who wanted to do it. And it would unfortunately remain a limited time trophy, because on February 4th, 2023, Fungi Island would be removed from the hardcore map rotation. This new time period of soloing hardcore would be arguably the easiest time period where you could solo hardcore, and it begins a year after the previous solo hardcore strategy. On the 28th of October 2023, TDS would add the infamous Lunar Overture event. If you're curious why I call it infamous, it's because it was a complete fucking train wreck. It was so bad that it could use its own video, but one word I can use to sum it up was chaos. And to use that word is very coincidental, because in this event, there were 3 nights, and the 3rd night would reward you with the insanely overpowered Jebel Tower, the Jester Tower. To understand why Jester made hardcore possible again is to do basically a full analysis on the tower. Jester specializes in debuffs that can damage enemies at the same time. She's got 4 different bombs with different quirks for each of them. Fire and Ice doing fire damage and slowing enemies, Poison for poison damage over time, and a Confusion Bomb to confuse enemies. These 4 bombs already absolutely sweep some of the challenging enemies you need to worry about in hardcore. While these perks already made light work of hardcore, these next 3 reasons are really why this tower was overpowered for hardcore. 1, Jester had hidden detection at level 0. 2, confusion worked on bosses. And 3, this tower costed under $10,000. This tower is the reason why I think the floodgates were opened when Jester was released. Everybody was doing hardcore solo, and even these 2 nerds hopped on this trend. And it wasn't made any better with Night 3 being heavily nerfed to the ground, where you could just solo the event with 1 goddamn tower. And for the next 5 months, solo hardcore was possible once again, and honestly, this period sucked. While Jester did make it possible again, it made the challenge feel a lot less rewarding, because you're using basically a cheat code dressed as a Jester. However, this strat also got somewhat removed, since Jester was nerfed, having its hidden detection being gained at level 3, and the cost being increased heavily. It was made a lot harder to beat hardcore, and honestly, thank God, bro. I did not like the Jester meta for hardcore, and it just felt lazy, I guess. But that would change not even 2 months later, where soloing hardcore began to slowly but surely lose its difficulty. Not even 2 months later, we would shift into a new age where the average TDSian could probably solo hardcore. On April 19th, 2024, the Mercenary base would be introduced to TDS, a unique spawner tower which granted the player base the first public damage buff tower, and I hope you can see why this would make hardcore 1,000 times easier. The important buffs that can actually determine if you're gonna win a match or not is fire rate and damage. This update made it so you can have both of those buffs, and on top of that, mercenary base isn't even that bad to use for hardcore itself, having riot guards, which are basically running walnuts, and grenadiers, which can be used for early lead detection. And from here on, it just goes downhill in terms of difficulty. The next addition was Brawler, which on release had hidden and lead. Then Gatling gun would be added, one of the most broken towers in the history of this game, literally giving you 1600 DPS for one tower. And last but not least, Pursuit would be reworked, being the final nail in the coffin, because this thing had every detection under the sun. Jesus Christ, bro. And now, the current year, 2025. Hardcore solo is now extremely easy, shown by people literally doing it with 3 towers. But honestly, hardcore getting easier to solo was expected to happen. This mode has not had any changes to its enemies at all. This shit was released almost 5 years ago. Like, it was inevitable that it was going to become easy to solo it. And 5 years ago, there were literally 80% shit towers and 20% good towers. So once these shit towers became all good towers that could actually fulfill a purpose, with the mode not getting any changes at all, it's no surprise that it became so easy to solo. Although, hopefully, when this mode eventually does get a rework, whenever the fuck that's gonna be, I hope it can still be soloed, but it just takes a lot more skill to pull off. Something similar to when you were able to solo hardcore with Jester after the nerf. Either way, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to do all the shit I said in the beginning of the video. And yeah, I'm gonna go see if I can buy those cookies now. So, goodbye.